Welcome everyone, this is Honest Restart, and this time we're going to be talking about the lack of a September Nintendo Direct so far this month. Now to be clear, I am recording this on September 8th. There is still plenty of months left. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But by this point, a lot of people thought they would have gotten an announcement already. There were a few leakers out there that were suggesting it would have happened by this point, and it hasn't happened yet. So people are starting to grow concerned. They are starting to raise doubts. They don't think it's necessarily going to happen. Now, I myself was predicting that it probably would have happened by this week, but by this point, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. It's looking like we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, which is always a possibility. And whenever I talk about these things, I try to make that clear that whenever we're talking about predictions and dates and things, there's certainly a fair bit of flexibility there, especially with Nintendo, because oftentimes they will change their mind last minute behind the scenes and move things up a little bit. It happens. But the question is, will we still be getting a Direct this month? Is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And why do we have to wait so long to find out? That's what we're talking about today. Now, before we jump into things, let me very quickly talk about my social media. You may see a few different things here on screen. You can check that all out. It is linked in the description below. And of course, if you like what you're seeing here, you can subscribe. When looking at the different Nintendo Directs that have happened in September, they usually are fairly early into the month. If we go back to 2016, September 1st, a Nintendo Direct. If we go to 2017, it happened on the 13th of September. In 2018, there was also a Direct on September 13th. If we go to 2019, the Direct happened on the 4th of the month, so very early into the month. And then in 2020, we didn't have a general Nintendo Direct, but we did get a 35th anniversary Mario Direct on the 3rd of September and a Direct Mini Partner Showcase announcing Monster Hunter Rise on the 17th of that month. So, history has shown that typically within the first half of a September, the last 5 years, we've gotten some sort of major Direct presentation announcing a number of things for Nintendo's primary platforms during that time. With that in mind, a lot of people thought that we probably would have seen a Direct by this point, that we would have gotten an announcement either last week or sometime this week, the first full week of September. But that has not happened yet. Why? Well, there's a number of reasons why, and a lot of which we're not privy to. We don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes with Nintendo. There could be potential COVID delays or COVID-related things going on with getting everything ready and put together. It could be the case that they never actually intended to have a Direct by this point, although I personally thought that they would have because WarioWare is coming out at the end of this week. I thought it would have made sense to have a Nintendo Direct where they would have showcased Wario and other games to come out throughout the holidays, and then announce a few other nice new things for the beginning of the year, and also maybe one or two things to come out later in the year as well for 2022. But here we are, late until Wednesday on the 8th, no signs of a Nintendo Direct happening this week, and Nintendo is marketing WarioWare, reviews are coming out, and there is no sort of Direct to further showcase this game. That doesn't mean the game's not going to do well, but it's not getting a Direct spotlight as I thought they would have given it, given that it's coming out in just a couple days. Maybe from Nintendo's perspective, there wasn't really that much of a need to showcase Wario during the Direct. Maybe they already felt like with their social media pushings and such, and the demo being out in the eShop, and with its presence at E3, but that was enough to get WarioWare going, and it's going to do relatively well when it releases, potentially. But then also maybe Nintendo felt like the timing for everything else just wasn't there yet. Maybe again, some trailers haven't been put together yet from third-party companies or something along those lines. Or maybe Nintendo just felt like putting the Direct out during this week would not have been the ideal time to showcase everything they want to showcase. And one big reason for that could be because this week we are getting the PlayStation 5 showcase this Thursday. Maybe Nintendo wants to wait and see what happens there, and then they go ahead and make their own announcement and try to maybe one-up Sony. We've actually seen Nintendo do this in the past. Last year, there were a couple times where Sony had some sort of announcement or event, and then Nintendo all of a sudden drops a trailer for Paper Mario the Origami King. They did that a few times. You could argue that it was perhaps coincidental, but it happened a few times throughout the year. It almost seemed like Nintendo just had these things ready to go, and they were very reactionary to what was going on from their competition. Or maybe it's not something where they're trying to one-up the competition necessarily, but simply that they want the showcase to be on their stuff when they decide to showcase it. So right now there's going to be a lot of discussion about PlayStation 5 and things going on with that, with the showcase happening tomorrow. So perhaps Nintendo wants to wait a little bit later so they can put out their own information on their own games and stuff, and that way they can have their own spotlight during that time, whenever that may be, hopefully next week. And if it does happen next week, it still wouldn't be that late into the month. Say we have the Direct on Wednesday or Thursday next week, that would be the 15th or 16th of the month. If we look at the Nintendo Direct archive, we did get a Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase on September 17th. Now, of course, that's also following the announcement of the Mario stuff on the 3rd of that month, but still, is it really that much of a difference to see it just about a week or two later? I don't think so. And that would still be enough time before Metroid Dread to talk about a number of other things. The Game Boy Online rumors have been continually piling up. We've been seeing different sites report about it. Recently, we got a report from Eurogamer further validating the information from others, suggesting that there are other platforms coming to Nintendo Switch Online, including Game Boy and Game Boy Color. And if that's the case, it does make sense for those things to be announced during a Direct in September, because that is when Nintendo's online memberships see renewal typically, because that's when they started way back when they got the whole membership thing going, and Nintendo's going to want to put out some sort of content to keep members subscribed. So it sort of adds up with all of these different Nintendo Online rumors that are coming about recently. So I still have plenty of reason to think that a Direct is happening fairly soon where they're going to announce those things, but you could make the argument that this Nintendo Online sort of update may not even happen in a Direct. That is possible. It's possible they could just do a series of Twitter announcements, and that's it. There you go. And maybe they don't have to talk about Metroid Dread again in a Direct. Perhaps they could simply put out a few more trailers, a few more Dread reports, and call it a day. The game is coming out alongside Switch OLED on October 8th. But then what about beyond that? What about Mario Party that's coming out on October 29th? What about Shin Megami Tensei 5 that's coming out a little bit into November? What about those games? I feel like those games perhaps need a little bit more spotlight. They haven't gotten that much attention, but perhaps once Metroid Dread comes out, Nintendo will then start to transition to talk about those games. And I think Mario Party will be fine, but I think Shin Megami Tensei 5 needs something. Even if it's not showcased in a general Nintendo Direct, it at least needs a game-specific Direct. But I feel like you first have to showcase it during a general Direct to get a lot more eyes on it. That way there will be more people interested in seeing a game-specific Direct for Shin Megami Tensei 5. It's a big deal. It's a big third-party exclusive that's been in development for a very long time, and it's coming out in November. It might be the biggest RPG we get to play for this holiday. It's something that I might even say is more exciting than Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. And I'm a big Pokemon fan, but Shin Megami Tensei 5 is a big brand new RPG, while Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl is an outsourced remake that is adding some nice additions, but ultimately it pales in comparison to things like Pokemon Legends Arceus. My point is simply that Shin Megami Tensei 5, I think, deserves a lot more attention here, and Nintendo needs to push that in some way. So it needs to be talked about, and then also Nintendo needs to start talking about things to happen in the earlier part of 2022, because we are approaching the end of the year, and typically they also like to announce one or two big things around this time of the year for things that are coming at some point in 2022, including maybe Splatoon 3. Maybe we finally get a specific release date for that. Maybe we get some sort of test fire before the end of the year so that we can see a bit of a stress test for that game, because I actually think that game is not that far off either. It could potentially be one of the big games that comes out before the end of the fiscal year, maybe this March. And that's the kind of thing that would definitely help to push Nintendo Online, which would make a lot of sense to talk about this month because there will be a lot of renewals this month. So I still feel like even though Nintendo could probably get away with not doing a Direct, it probably still makes more sense for there to be a Direct this month because of the Nintendo Online things, because of wanting to push perhaps Splatoon 3, because it makes sense to push things like Shin Megami Tensei 5 and Metroid Dread, and also we need to learn about the games that are coming out in February and March. So I still think it's likely happening even though it hasn't happened yet. Again, it's just September 8th. We still have all of next week and then the week after and then the week after that. So there's still plenty of time in the month. I still think it's happening. The reason why myself and many others have been talking about a Direct has really nothing to do with some of the people who are out there leaking things. It's just because historically it's always made sense for Nintendo to do it during this time. That's what they've done the last 5 years. I don't think that's going to change just because it's September 8th. I think maybe they're just waiting a little bit longer, probably because of the PlayStation 5 showcase, or maybe because there are just some things behind the scenes that aren't quite ready yet. And once they're ready, Nintendo will put it all together and put out an announcement, and they'll showcase it maybe next week or the week after, and everything will go pretty much as planned, save for WarioWare having a bit of a focus there. But who knows, maybe they'll announce something extra for WarioWare post-release that will be featured during the Direct. Maybe some type of DLC thing. We'll see. But anyways, everyone, I still think a September Nintendo Direct is happening. Could be wrong, of course, but history suggests that it's probably gonna happen, so I'm not really that concerned yet. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think a Direct is still happening, or do you think no? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, everyone, this is On Just Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.